Welcome to a new Plug and Groove video. My name is John. Skippy Limcool. Nice to see you. Welcome. Hey, so 2 new libraries by one amazing dude. Airwave Volume 3 and Airwave Volume 3 Loops are the 2 libraries we're going to look at right now. This video is sponsored by my website, plugandguru.com. If you need inspiring sounds, there's 70 plus patch libraries. Been at this since 2009, so it just keeps growing and growing. So please, if you need inspiring patches, we love to reinvent synthesizers, give them another personality than what they maybe came out of the box with. That's what every library will give you, and it's cheaper than buying a new synthesizer. So dig in. You'll know what, once you're a customer, once you have a library or two and you've seen how it can totally take its synthesizer with one personality and give it another one, then you're mine for life. Anyway, so these libraries are so big in scope, I'm not going to go through. There's 510 patches and 95 multis using 133 new samples in the Airwave patch library. The Airwave loop library is a little bit different, and let me show you that just briefly so that you can get an idea of what that's about. This is actually really cool. I think it's a first for a third-party library where Airwave took actual audio 2-measure drum loops that were chopped to be perfectly looping, imported them into Omnisphere, into the granular engine. Let's see here if I call one of these up. This is played as an audio file. I've got 4 controllers here. To play with them. And there's 260 of them. So there's a whole lot of all sorts of different things. If you turn off granular, you might hear a little more fidelity, but they're still there. Now, some of these, I want to show you a trick. This is about 120 beats per minute, and if you slow it down to, like, say, 80 beats per minute, you start to hear clicks as it pulls it apart. So one thing I found that you can do, because this is using the ARP, playing at 16th notes. For one thing, you can open the release a little bit longer if you don't want to be quite so choppy like this, right? The other thing is to go in here to the amp and zoom in on the attack right here. And move it a little bit later, and you hear the click goes away. And to get it to be a little bit snappier, change the curvature so it just snaps up into the corner. And I can move it back. Hear the clicks? Now there's not so many clicks. Okay? So if you slow them down, you will notice, because of the way he's doing this, he's using the arpeggiator to re-trigger it on 16th notes while the granular position is changing with an LFO. That's how he keeps it in sync. The arpeggiator is helping keep it in sync instead of it just being an audio file played all the way through. It's a very, very clever idea. But that's how these are all set up. So you have the length to play with and the envelope shape itself on the attacks. Because of the way that this is done, you actually have some really cool options to yourself, because you can shape it, you can have the envelope become snappy, even though it's an audio loop. So these are things you couldn't do if it was a drum loop. If it was a drum loop, it'd just be at the beginning, and then the rest of the loop would be dark. But here, because the arpeggiator is playing a 16th note, you can go in here, do my trick of adding one more segment, and you can get exactly where you want it to be. Okay? So there's some tricks to play with this library. It's very clever how it's laid out. At the end of, I think there's like 240, 50 something. Let's see here, 245 actual loops. At the end of those are combos. I will tell you, because this is using the granular engine, the CPU requirement is a little higher than if it was quite a bit higher than if it's just an audio loop. So these get to be a little heavy because it's playing 3 loops. Right? So I'm not going to try to play them. You'll hear audio glitching, and that's not what we want. After that, the mutateds are single loops that have synth parameters being modulated and modified. And what's fun with these is that you can hit the little folder. If it's not showing, hit sharing, and then all the third-party libraries will show up for you to see the samples. Select loops, and you can go through all the loops. So these are kind of like templates, each one of these. When you see these, there's 6 templates for mutated. I did 7 templates, what I call the sparse. So bring them to release if you want to be not so clicky. And again, you can go to the attack. And again, you have the ability to play across anywhere on the keyboard. If you want to be a really great thing to add here would be distortion. Go over here, add the distortion, flame. Do something like highly flammable. And then bring down the gain. And then make this low pass filter loop all the way open. And then mix it down a little bit. Set to more high pass. I mean, there's all sorts of ways. Then go over here, say delay. There's all sorts of ways to use it. It's really creative to play with, and it's something that hasn't been done before. So it gives you a template to see how you might be able to import your own WAV files in. Use these setups with your WAV files. If you have WAV files that you've edited to be 1 or 2 measures looped, then you just go over here to the LFO, and the rate's currently 2 times, set it to 1 time if it's 1 measure. At this point, it's going through the granular really fast. You can do things where you make it even longer. There's all sorts of ways to play with these. So it's not just loops, period. It's loops in a way that you, again, have a lot of control over them. You can do some really cool things. There are multis in this library. They can get pretty CPU intense because they're loading up lots of loops at once to play. Let's see if this computer, while streaming and recording all this, will actually let me play this. It's kind of... And again, the 4 controllers. Right? Basically, the loops, this is the first one, controller 1, is filter cutoff going down. Then CC2 is which is breath controller, is doing an increasing of the envelope. So you can have this be dark, and this will bring back up the snap. And this resonance. And then number 67 is the 4th controller, soft pedal. That gives you the ability to do the reverb. Okay, so there's all these. He even took one of the multis that is part of Airwave Volume 3. The Road to Trappist, this is the version in the full patch library. Right? He took that. You get that as a bonus in the loop library at the end of the multis, but he's added a drum loop from the library. Yes, so part 3 is a loop. beautiful. And it's cool. It's using a loop. And if you want, you can go to part 3 and go to the loop library and swap this out with any others. That's cool. There you go. That's cool. Put a flanger on it. Put delay. Fun stuff. Yeah, and then you could go turn down the mix and then assign these to be modulated with the soft pedal, let's say. So let's get soft pedal. So the reverb will come up as well as the soft pedal will bring up also these flanger and delay things. So now it's playing and then right? So it's very easy to program. Just remember it's MIDI CCs. You don't need to set up any automation in your DAW. It's just standard MIDI CCs. That's what's nice with this system for Omnisphere, okay? So it's a pretty cool library to have, something that hasn't been done before. You know, we like to try to do things, and this was a really great idea he brought to me, and I'm like, oh yeah, let's try it. It's not in the normal spec of what you would expect from Omnisphere, but that's what's fun about it. Bring out something unexpected. You can do this too. Really? What? You can do that? It's cool. Okay. Let's get into the full library now. So go initialize. Yeah, so before we get into all this, what's different with this library and unique is it has a lot of samples source that Airwave made. Like if we go to the hits, these booms are all new. These are from source he recorded, processed, added reverb. They're really cool. There's claps with reverb, which are a must for dance music, for trance, for other styles of music when you have some sort of and then you take off with the groove, keep going. But these are totally different. You haven't heard these before. They're processed in cool ways. Crashables are both crash noises right? Hit combos. Yeah, pretty cool. Trailer hits. Airplodes. Yeah. So these are sample based. This is one sample. And then the 4 controllers. So you can do all sorts of shaping. Right? There's some cool keyboard stuff. We'll get to that in a minute. I want to show the sweeps and the risers. Totally usable samples. So Airwave made these transitions. You might have to work on the timing to get it so that its hit is right in the time with your song. Hello. So these are really, really cool to put into the mix. And then you get the stuff we all know and love from Airwave. Really cool basses. There's old school, new school. right? So you have stuff like that. The ARPs, these are so cool. This is one note. Sample rate. Put them all together. Really, really cool. So there's all sorts of really cool art. Polyrhythmic adventures. There's a delay. It sounds like a reverb with a... Yeah, it sounds like there's a reverb with some sort of a... Yeah. The mix is being changed with an envelope. Really cool. BPM basses. They're great, all so fun. All right, so we go through there. Look at all these. Now the attacks. Let me show you these first as multis. These are bass attacks, and there's 10 of them. These are a single bass line requiring 4 patches with different ARP parameter settings. Oh, it hasn't updated. Okay, so watch the little boxes. They're playing at different times, the 4 different patches. So we pulled, after he sent these to us, we went through and we pulled all these out. So you have all these separate little components from all these different bass patches, from all these different bass multis. Because Omnisphere has doubled each patch in size, it takes longer to load and so forth because there's so many more parameters now in the patches. All right, so those are the multis where all 4 patches are playing. If you initialize this and go to a single patch, you will see that we've pulled out, there's 10 and there's 4, so that's 40 patches of sparse bass parts, which are so usable in so many different ways. So you could say, I want to use the 4th one from number 1. And it's not even on the downbeat for this one, right? So let's go stack. Let's go to 2, and let's use the bass part. I like how snappy 4 was. Let's find... And then on top of that, let's go to part 3. Not a loop. Let's go back to the Airwave volume 3. Let's use a kick from maybe a house kick. See? The sparse parts are so cool. Then on top of this, let's go to part 4. We could go just for fun because it's so fun. Go to the loops. Let's call up a loop. Now I'm playing lower notes, so I'm going to transpose this up in pitch. And then I want to go through the loops. So go sharing. I like that. But all that low end from the kicks, we don't need that. So go to Common, go to EQ, go Studio EQ, set this to the high pass filter. High pass filter removes anything below a certain frequency. So if I set this like 400, now all that low end muddy stuff, here, I'll show you. part 4. As I bring this down, ooh. You don't want that in the mix. That's going to mess up the low end. You want the low end to be focused and clear, right? And so high pass filters just make it all go away. And you can use the one here. There's actually also one on the main page. If you set this to high pass filter, either way, you can go like that. And then go playing with the kicks. Let's go to part 3 and say maybe a different kick. There we go. So you see, it's modular. So much of this library is modular. It's really fun to play with it in that kind of a concept. Using these sparse bass parts with the percussion, you can create a myriad of different types of grooves and things that are going to work in all sorts of genres besides just trance, because once you have those sparse bass part, you can pop that into all sorts of music. So the little bass attacks are awesome for that. After that, we get, well, there's one chord right here. That's cool. Just using synth waveforms. Then you get to claps. These are claps Airwave made. Processing. Right? Then there's claps from breaks. This gets to, let me show you in the multi-mode real quick. In volume 3, when you get to drums, there's 10 different break beats that Airwave created. Here's number 7. How are you doing today? How's the weather where you are? It's cold and rainy here in Portland. Ugh. Yeah, cool. Okay, so there's breaks, there's chill beats that are really cool, and house beats. So we pulled out all of the components from all of these as separate patches. Right? That's cool. So we pulled all the components for all of these grooves out as separate patches. So you can use them to build your own grooves. It's really, really fun. So when you get to the initialize 1, Airwave volume 3. So when we get to the drums, there's claps, there's kicks, there's snares, there's hats. The air claps are new ones using samples. A lot of these from the breaks in the house are actually programmed using noise and so forth. Aircussion is stuff that Airwave used his own recording sessions and made percussion sounds. And then he's using these to make really cool grooves. So you have all of these elements as separate elements. If you go to the multi-mode, you will find these down in the drum menu. Maybe put them in perk. Yeah. Yeah, right here. The BPM drum menus, here's the aircussions, and these are set up so that they are mapped across the keyboard. If we hit stack. So you can make your own big, huge grooves if you want. And again, the 4 controllers are awesome for everything. Right? So the air cushion, those grooves are there. Let's initialize this multi. I keep going back and forth between the two because with the multis will have like things like this, like menus that show you lots of those individual loops that you find as separate patches. So I want to kind of go between the two so that you see what's the scope of what you have to work with, right? So get past the air cushions, there's air hats, and the hats from all the different break beats and house and chill, air kicks, kicks from breaks, chill, and house, air percussion from the breaks, chill, and house are all here. Air snare, chill, snare breaks, air under are like more cinematic dance. Right? Boom attacks. Just like the basses that I showed you earlier, he did boom attacks. So instead of bass attack, they're called boom attacks. And what these are 4 different patches that play at different times to make boom sequences. So they're really cool. It's kind of tricky to keep time with this one, so let's do this. Let's go multi. If you're at 4, you can go over here and right click and say add part 5. So now you can go to part 5, click the 5 box, go through the library. Let's find a kick right here, like one of these guys. Now you see how it fits into the timing. It's all slotted for you. If you want 6, you'd have to go over here and say turn on part 6. Be careful. 1 patch equals what used to be 2 patches. So when you get to 6, that's like 12 patches. So at some point, your computer's going to go, don't do that. So, and if you want to be in a different pitch, on the main page, there's an octave transpose. Just insane. So much fun. Okay. So that's just the start. We're just warming up. So if we go initialize. On top of all this, there's keyboard sounds, there's pads, there's BPM pads. And then he did something really cool. He sent me a video. This was like over 6 months ago. Probably almost like 8 months ago. Of game. He made these sounds from video games using just the engine of Omnisphere. So, oh, I did it. So go to part 1. He made these sounds using just the synth engine, not even samples. There's no samples used for any of these games. So you can do all sorts of cool melodies with video game sounds. They're also set up kind of to be like a modded hardware. You can also make it sound like someone's talking. What? I'll be home in a little bit. I'm stopping at the bar for a little while. No, I won't. I promise. Just one. I'll just have 1 beer, okay? I know. Last week was I'm sorry about that. That was really bad, but I won't do it again. So they're crazy. Can't wait to hear what you guys do with all these. I mean, there's Galaga, there's 2600. Bit stops. So much fun. And it's pure synthesis. It's the waveforms, no samples. So those are there. Hits, these are really cool. Booms. We talked about the claps, the crashables. I showed you all these guys, the trailers. He's got these pads that are really unique. I haven't actually used what he used myself. This is using the metal pipe filter. And if you hit the little plus button, you can see the metal pipe setting. And do you want to hear what this is? Let's turn off the filters. There's a little synth waveform. It's noise from one of the explosion sounds going through granular, and then the metal pipe with resonance maxed. Really cool. I hadn't heard sounds like this before, so this was very unique. And again, turn off the filters and it's noise. So it's noise being fed, but it's not just white noise. It's noise from explosions and the granular engine. Going into metal pipe. Really, really cool. So it's a fun library. The keyboard sounds, there's some really interesting. Bass clav. Even the Dream piano, I believe, is using the metal pipe. Let's see here. It's using the Dream piano. And then it's percussion samples. Clever. Piano with a nice little attack. Stranger keys or so there's so much to play with. And then when we get to multi-mode, it kind of goes crazy with all the really cool Bpm split stuff. So you have the 4 basses that I showed you earlier. Yeah, Omnisphere hasn't caught up yet. All the drum breaks that I showed you, there's menus. These are the perk attacks. These are cool. These are using the 4 different perk samples in the arpeggiator to make kind of like the percussive library that we did. So this is like a mini percussive for a little while here. But it's 4 patches. Really cool. That's one of those clap longs we were talking about. By the way, 2019, wait till you see what Percussive Volume 2. Real samples, real orchestral percussion, cinematic percussion. It will be taking this concept and making an entire library of it. It's really going to be great. This is aimed more at dance, which is really cool. I mean, it's just awesome, ready to go. The Bpm splits, there's a whole bunch of these. These are really fun. I mean, my God. I would suggest being on the stack page when you look at these so you can see the layout. This has like low C. And just like the OMG libraries that we've released, it's set to latch. So you just play low C, and now it's grooving. So you can. Off you go. These are so fun. Trommel, trommel. Trance Nirvana. So many fun ones to play with here. I did this at the opening. This one is insane because it's using all sorts of it's using inner space all over the place. So it's very CPU heavy. If you want to minimize, you can go over here and just turn off the effects. And just doing that a little bit will make it play better. This is a library that will be used in all sorts of productions. It's not just for trance. If you get to the Baltis and the Bpm split stuff, you'll feel the trance vibe is very strong. But when you get to the bass attacks and stuff, these are usable for all sorts of. This is 128 beats per minute, but try it at like 85 and it's really nice. Here's 85. And you're in a whole different genre. Isn't that great? So it's not just 128 beat per minute. Yes, it does that really well. At 85, 95 beats per minute, all this stuff kind of takes on a whole different personality, from the Airwave loops to the full patch library. So dig in. There's a lot of meat to process, a lot of tricks to look at and understand and learn to enhance your programming when you're working with your synthesizers. So, and thank you. I want to sincerely thank you for Airwave, myself. You keep us, he keeps paying his bills with the money he makes from these libraries and from touring and everything else. So it's appreciated that you buy these and support us. So thank you and enjoy, and we'll see you soon.